Ilingkod ng tama ngayong Pasko hanggang dumating ang 2025. Isang pagpupugay, pasasalamat at pagsisikap ang pangako na aming bibitiwan sa lahat ng aming natanggap na pagpapala. Pagpupugay sa lahat ng nagbigay ng pagkilala sa Aliw Broadcasting Corporation mula sa Philippine Outstanding Brand of the Year, Philippine Finest Business Awards and Outstanding Achievement, Asia Pacific Luminaire Awards, Southeast Asian Premier Business and Achiever Award. Sa aming mga natanggap, 4-time Best AM Station Awardee, DWIZ 882, 4-time Best Radio Newscaster Awardee, Dennis Antenor Jr., 3-time Best FM Station Awardee, Home Radio 97.9, 2-time Most Promising TV Station Awardee, Aliw Channel 23, at Best Public Service Radio Host Awardee, Bragi Braganza. Pangakong itutuloy ang pagbibigay ng tamang balita at tamang paglilingkod at isang malaking pasasalamat sa tiwalang naibigay sa amin. Pakaasahan niyong gagawin naming malaking inspirasyon ito para ipagpatuloy ang maglingkod sa lahat ng Pilipino. Ang balitang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng
Whirlpool Home Appliances that make everyday living so much easier. From washers, dryers, refrigerators, microwave ovens, cooking products, to air cons, air purifiers, and dishwashers. Whirlpool, sensing what matters today. Making your world a little easier. Whirlpool.
Ang balitang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng M. Luwilier. Basta kwarta padala, mag M. Luwilier na. Lahat sigurado. Oy! Oras po natin sa buong Pilipinas, 3 minuto, makaraan ng 10:00 ng morning. Humanda na sa mga malalaking balita. Trending viral. Pinag-uusapan sa buong Pilipinas at buong mundo. Ronda Pilipinas Headlines. Narito na mga headlines sa Ronda Pilipinas. Ronda Pilipinas. Bagyong Christina panatili ang lakas habang nasa silangan ng Quezon Province. Malaking bahagi ng Bicol Region lubog sa baha. Ronda Pilipinas. Pasok ng Senate employee suspendido ngayong araw. Pero investigasyon kay Pastor Apollo Kibuloy tuloy. 7 testigo haharap sa pagdinig. Ronda Pilipinas. Pangalan ng party list nominee sa 2025 elections, isa sa publiko na ng COMELEC ngayong araw. Ronda Pilipinas. Pag-atake sa bahay ni Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, inako ng grupong Hezbollah. Ronda Pilipinas. Arellano University sumikwat ng back-to-back win sa ginaganap na NCAA Season 100. Ronda Pilipinas. Johnny Santa Maria hindi pipilitin ang sarili na magpakasal uli. Ronda Pilipinas. Palihim na binidyuhan ang lasing na kainuman at ginawa pang content. Nako, alamin ang kaparusahan ng kumuha ng video na yan sa NBI. Nako, bawal ito. Ronda Pilipinas. Pagtulog sa malamig na temperatura, air condition. Nako, maganda daw yan sa kalusugan. Mamaya, let's prove it. Ronda Pilipinas. Ang mga malalaking mga balita, ang mga matitinding mga pinag-uusapan, ang mga maiinit at pinagtatalunang mga issue. Lahat hagip, lahat malalaman. Hindi lang sa buong Metro at Mega Manila. Kasama na ang buong Pilipinas. Hahagupit na ang mga malalaking issue sa Ronda Pilipinas. Live na live sa DWIZ AM Metro at Mega Manila. Naka-live din sa DWIZ News FM Regional Stations. Naka-live din sa Radyo Ronda AM Radio sa Pilipinas. Live ding mapapanood sa Aliw 23 Free TV. At naka-live din sa lahat ng DWIZ Digital News accounts, Facebook, YouTube at DWIZ News website. Ronda Pilipinas. Pilipinas. Wala nang mahuhuli sa balita. Wala nang maiiwanang issue na hindi mo alam. Ngayon, updated ka na sa Ronda Pilipinas. Kasama si Dennis Antenor Jr. Ronda Pilipinas. Aha! Meron nung nakakalungkot na balita at pinag-uusapan ng lahat ng OFW sa buong Pilipinas at buong mundo, lalong-lalo na yung mga madalas na mga nag-eeroplano at lumalabas at saka hindi lumalabas ng bansa dahil yung iba naman ay local ang trip. Tungkol po ito sa mga naiiwang bagahe. Nabalita mo ba ito?
Oo, maraming yun. At saka marami ng kaso na naging
Sa
ganyan.
Terminal 3?
Oo.
Hindi, kasi tayo nagbabangon tayo ng imahe ng Nagbabangon tayo ng imahe ng Pilipinas na maganda ang Pilipinas. Siyempre, pagka maganda ang Pilipinas, saan ba dadaan yan? Sa airport.
Oo.
Di ba?
Sabi pa nga, di ba? Love the Philippines.
Oh, yan.
Oh.
How can you love the Philippines when you don't have your luggage?
Luggage the Philippines.
Oh, di ba?
Oh, yun na nga.
Mahirap po ito pagka ganito mga balita. Yung mga anong pangalan nung Ate Juday, yung grupo na namamahala ngayon sa NAIA Terminal?
Yung NAIA Infrastructure Corp, NNIC.
NNIC, ayun, NNIC. Calling ang mga tao diyan sa NNIC, pakiayos lang po 'yan. Oh, dahil pag ikaw ay nasa trip tapos wala yung bagahe mo, nakakasama naman ang loob yan.
Bukod sa inaayos ninyo yung Terminal 4, ayusin ang procedure dun sa nangyari sa Terminal 3.
Well, kumbaga, huwag kayong magalala, inaayos po namin. Oo, pero delayed na yung bagahe.
Ayun na nga.
Lahat ng mga personal belongings mo andun Hindi ba? Paano kung attend ka ng kasal ng kapatid mo, ng
Ayun.
anak mo, paano na? Kung nandun yung damit mo, paano na?
Wala, bigla silang gagastos ng pagkalaki-laki para magrenta sa ibang lugar.
Oh, di ba? Napakahirap. Ay, nako. Magandang araw, Pilipinas. Ito ang Ronda Pilipinas live na lives sa DWIZ 882 sa buong Metro and Mega Manila, and of course sa buong Pilipinas sa DWIZ News FM regional stations, and of course sa Radyo Ronda. At mapapanood tayo sa lahat ng mga ginagawang radyo ang kanilang mga TV, Aliw Channel 23 at DWIZ News TV. Ako ang iyong magiging tagapagbalita. Ako si Dennis Antenor Jr. Ronda Pilipinas. At alamin na natin ang pinaka-latest report mula dito sa binabantayan po natin na bagyo na si Christine sa ating weather report live. Go! Pinakahuli, pinaka-latest, pinaka-napapanahon, whether we like it or not, ito ang magiging DWIZ Weather Report. Grabe ang ulan na tinanggap talaga ng Naga. Okay, Daryl Justin, go.
Okay, dire-diretso na tayo kasi may inaantabayanan pa tayo sa Senado Sa ngayon, sa pinaka-latest na weather bulletin na inilabas ng Pag-asa ngayong alas 8 ng umaga, napanatili ni Tropical Storm Christine ang kanyang lakas habang kumikilos pakanluran, hilagang kanluran sa baybayin ng Quezon. Huli itong namataan sa layong 310 kilometro, silangan ng Baler Aurora, taglay ang lakas ng hangin na umaabot sa 75 kilometro kada oras malapit sa gitna at pagbugsong umaabot naman sa 70 kilometro kada oras. Kasalukuyang kumikilos ito pakanluran, hilagang kanluran na west-northwest sa bilis na 15 kilometro kada oras. Nakataas na po ang Tropical Cyclone Wind Signal number 2 sa Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, La Union, Pangasinan, Apayao, Abra, Kalinga, Mountain Province, Ifugao, Benguet, Mainland Cagayan, Isabela, Quirino, kasama ng Nueva Ecija, Bulacan, Tarlac, Pampanga, Zambales, Hilaga at silangang bahagi ng Quezon kasama Polillo Islands. Ito mga lugar naman sa Bicol, Camarines Norte, Camarines Sur, Catanduanes, Albay at ang hilagang silangang bahagi naman ng Sorsogon. Habang nakataas naman ang Tropical Cyclone Wind Signal number 1 sa mga sumusunod naman na lugar. Asahan natin na nakasignal number 1 ang Bataan, Metro Manila, Rizal, Laguna, Quezon, Batangas, Marinduque, Oriental Mindoro, Occidental Mindoro, Romblon, Aklan, Capiz, Antique, Iloilo, ang hilagang bahagi ng Palawan, kasama na ang northeast portions ng Cebu, ang lalawigan ng Bohol, Leyte, Southern Leyte, Dinagat Island, Surigao del Norte, Samar, Eastern Samar, Northern Samar, Biliran, kasama na rin ang Masbate dyan sa mga nakataas sa Tropical Cyclone Wind Signal number 1. Sa pinaka-latest naman na forecast track at intensity netong si Tropical Storm Christine, inaasahang kikilos siya pahilagang kanluran at ito po, makinig, tatama po ito sa kalupaan sa may Isabela o Northern Aurora area mamayang gabi o bukas na madaling araw. Dire-diretso po yan, tatawirin ng bagyo ang kalupaan ng Hilagang Luzon hanggang makalabas po ito sa baybayin ng Ilocos Region Huwebes ng hapon o gabi. Inaasahan naman natin na lalakas pa ito mamayang tanghali o hapon. Magiging isang severe tropical storm ito at lalawak pa ang outer rain bands na nasabing bagyo at maapektuhan pa rin ang buong Luzon, ang ilang bahagi ng Visayas kasama na ang northern portion ng Palawan. Inaasahan naman natin na magiging severe tropical storm ulit ito o hihina ito paglabas ng karagatan, pagpunta na ito sa may kabaybayin ng Ilocos Region bukas ng hapon, pagsapit naman ng bukas ng gabi hanggang Biyernes ng umaga, muling lalakas ito bilang isang severe tropical storm. Alas 5 ng umaga ng Biyernes hanggang magtanghali ng Biyernes, inaasahan natin yan ang araw ng paglabas ni Tropical Storm Christine sa Philippine Area of Responsibility. Kaya sa malaking bahagi ng Luzon at Visayas, makakaasa pa rin tayo ng maulan at masungit na panahon. Mahina pa lang yung nararamdaman pero hanggat lumalakas ito, asahan na magiging moderate to at times heavy rains ang ating mararanasan. Sa latest weather advisory na inilabas ng Pag-asa, ngayong araw inaasahan natin ng intense to torrential rainfall sa malaking bahagi ng Cagayan, Isabela, Apayao, Aurora, Quezon, Catanduanes, Camarines Norte at Camarines Sur. Heavy to intense rainfall naman sa nalalabing bahagi ng Cagayan Valley, Cordillera Administrative Region, Ilocos Region, Rizal, Albay at Sorsogon. Habang moderate to heavy rains naman sa nalalabing bahagi ng Central Luzon, Calabarzon, ang Metro Manila. Moderate to heavy ang inaasahan natin ngayon, Occidental Mindoro, Oriental Mindoro, Marinduque, Romblon, Calamian Islands, Masbate at kasama na po ang Northern Samar. Magpapatuloy ang ganitong masungit na panahon hanggang bukas po at gradually improving weather tayo. Pagsapit ng Huwebes ng umaga o hanggang tanghali, asahan na natin na bahagyang gaganda ng panahon. Pero sa ngayon, pinag-iingat ang lahat sa masungit na panahon. Magdala ng inyong mga panangga sa ulan. Huwag na baunin, dalhin nyo na at gamitin nyo na kagad. Sumikat ang araw, 5:49 ng umaga, lulubog 5:32 ng hapon. At syempre, bago tayo magtapos, mayroon na lamang tayong 63 days to go bago magpasko. Ang Senado ang topic of the day ngayon dahil sa nasabing hearing. Siya lang, Senate of the Philippines.
Okay.
Okay, at yan naman aking latest weather report, whether you like it or not. Ako po, si Daryl Justin, nagbabalita ng tama, naglilingkod ng tama.
Pinakahuli, pinaka-latest, pinaka-napapanahon, whether we like it or not. DWIZ Weather Report. Ronda Pilipinas. Samantala, dumiretso na tayo sa Senado. Mga co-accused ni Kibuloy ipinasok na sa Senate Session Hall at pagpasok ni Kibuloy pagpasok sa Session Hall, sabay-sabay na bare. Alamin na natin ang latest report mula dyan sa Senado mula kay Patrol 19, Celi Ortega. Bueno, Ate Celi, kumusta diyan?
Okay, nagsimula na itong panibagong pagdinig ng Committee on Women, Children, Family Relations, and Gender Equality. May kaugnayan na sa mga reklamo at akusasyon ng pang-aabuso nitong si Pastor Apollo Kibuloy ng Kingdom of Jesus Christ. Kanina, unang pumasok yung ilang mga co-accused ni Pastor Kibuloy na ito yung mga nakadetain na rin at pinayagan naman sila ng korte at natapos makapasok yung ilang mga co-accused na naturang religious leader, sumunod na pinasok sa session hall itong si Pastor Kibuloy na binigyan ng sapat na seguridad sa panguna ni Senate Sergeant at Arms Retired General Roberto Ancan. Nandito rin itong sina DFA Secretary Manalo at ilang pang mga opisyal ng gobyerno. So, sa mga oras na ito ay nagbibigay ng kanyang opening statement itong Senator Risa Ontiveros, ang chairman ng naturang committee. At isa sa mga inaantabayanan na pwedeng maging highlights na itong hearing ay yung magiging parang face-to-face o face-off nitong mga nagrereklamo na manibiktima ng pang-abuso ni Pastor Kibuloy at makakaharap nila mismo itong si Pastor Apollo Kibuloy na ito yung kanyang first time na haharap sa pagdinig ng naturang committee. So, pakinggan natin itong opening statement ni Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Sige. Report.
Ayaw magpakita ng mukha.
Pinakahuli. Pasok na natin yung audio ng hearing mismo sa Senado. Meron na tayong video, di ba? Okay, pwede na natin. Go.
Edward Ablaza Masayon, nakilalang alias Jackson, at Joar Martinet Olimba, nakilalang alias Jerome. So, Comsec, pakikilalanin muna yung ating resource persons at panumpain yung hindi pa nakapag-sumpa.
Good morning po, Senator Ontiveros. For today's inquiry, the Department of Justice, which is supposed to be represented by Secretary Jesus Remulla, is represented by Senior State Counsel Mary Grace Quintana. We also have the Director for the Criminal Investigation and Detection Group, CIDG, PB General Nicolas Torre III, and Police Lieutenant Colonel Jean Likud, Police Colonel Hansen Marantan. Okay. For the National Bureau of Investigation, we have Investigator Victoria B. Canyo Jr. Victoria. And S.I. Geraldo P. De Luna. From the Department of Social Welfare and Development, we have Social Welfare Officer 5, Ms. Charito Esteban. And Attorney for Edgar Alian Pamis. From the Department of Interior and Local Government, we have ASEC Romeo P. Benitez. From the Department of Foreign Affairs, we have Undersecretary Jesus Gary Domingo. We have Secretary Enrique Manalo. Sorry po. And Attorney Zeph Goson. From the Bureau of Immigration, we have Attorney Vicente Uncad and Attorney Jose Talito Zeylicas. From the Council for the Welfare of Children, we have Undersecretary Angelo M. Tapales. From the Commission on Human Rights, we have Chairperson Richard Palpalato. From the Securities and Exchange Commission, we have Attorney Jonathan Pancrasius Pagirigan. We have Chief Counsel Attorney Hale Oliver Labayo and Attorney Pamela Lorraine S. Ramos. From the Social Security System, they are represented by Ms. Marie Elaine Estoque, their Vice President for Mindanao South 1 Luzon Division. And Ms. Irene Laksamana, as well as Ms. Alnora Presbitero, Ms. Elaine Perucho, Attorney Joseph Desunya. From the Center for Migrant Advocacy, they are represented by the Executive Director Ellen Sana. From the Now Independent Press Council, they are represented by the President Edita Caduaya. And the founding leader and executive pastor of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, Pastor Apollo Kibuloy, together with Miss Jacqueline Roy, Resente Canada, Pauline Canada, Ingrid Canada, Sylvia Semañez. With online is Miss Arlene Canuda Stone, Mr. Edward Ablasa Masayon, Mr. Joar Martinet Olimba, Ms. Teresita Pinanhan Valdehuesa, Ms. Jocelyn Mondejar, and online also is Ms. Yulia Veronin, and online also is Mr. Dindo Garcia Makiling. We will be joined later by alias Marie, Senator. That's all. May I request all of those who have not yet taken their oaths, the resource persons and witnesses as well, to stand up. And please raise your right hand. Resource persons and witnesses, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this Senate inquiry proceedings?
Yes.
Senator, they have all answered in the affirmative. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Comsec, at maraming salamat sa lahat ng resource persons. At this point, bago natin unang binigin yung ating mga victim survivors, first I would like to call on the Majority Leader, Senator Francis Tolentino, para sa kanilang opening statement. You have the floor, Majo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Magandang umaga sa ating mga resource persons. Magandang umaga kay Pastor Apollo Kibuloy at sa lahat ng mga naririto. At sa mga kapwa kong mambabatas, kahit po yung nandoon sa online at sa ating mga panauhin, tayo po ay naririto sa harap ng committee ito sa isang maulang araw. At nais ko lang linawin po ang layunin para sa aking perspective as an officer of the court, as a lawyer, kung ano po ang layunin at kahalagahan ng pagdinig na ito. Ang Senado ay, unang-una, ang Senado ay hindi isang hukuman. At hindi po tayo naririto upang magpasya kung ang isang tao ay nagkasala o walang sala. Sa ilalim ng saligang batas ng Pilipinas, lalong-lalo na sa Article 6, Section 21, binigyan tayo ng kapangyarihan. Tinutukoy ko po ang mga mambabatas na magsagawa ng mga investigasyon in aid of legislation o bilang tulong sa paggawa ng mga batas. Sa hukuman, ang pangunahing layunin ay ang paglutas ng mga kaso at pag-alam kung may pananagutan o wala ang mga akusado, batay sa ebidensyang ipinapakita. Sa Senado, ang ating layunin ay iba. Ito ay upang mag-imbestiga at mangalap ng mga impormasyon at dokumento para sa isang makatarungan at makabuluhang pagbalangkas ng mga batas. Sa isang husgado, meron pong tinatawag na right cross-examine witnesses. Maliwanag po sa Rules of Court, ang Bill of Rights, at iba pa. Ngunit nais ko pong ipabatid na ang karapatang mag-cross-examine ng mga testigo, isang mahalagang bahagi ng mga pagdinig ng korte, ay hindi saklaw ng investigasyong ito. Ang proseso ng cross-examination at iba pang pamamaraan na ginagamit ng korte ay eksklusibo sa hudikatura. But we recognize, this committee, again as an officer of the court, recognizes the primacy of the judiciary insofar as this issue is concerned. One, because the committee requested the Regional Trial Court of Pasig to allow the detainees to attend today's hearing. It is an acknowledgement of the court's jurisdiction over the accused. Number two, the committee, before it moved and conducted a hearing today, showed respect to the court by acknowledging the court's jurisdiction and not conducting a hearing without the prior court approval. And number two, and I would want to make a motion here before I continue my opening statement, Madam Chair, this committee should likewise be furnished a copy of any opposition filed to form part of the records of these proceedings of the counsel of those accused present here. I request, Madam Chair, that we be provided copies of any opposition filed by the group of Pastor Kibuloy and all other accused in the Pasig case, if that would merit the consideration of this committee, Madam Chair.
So ruled, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam
Opo,
Chair.
please.
That would form part of the records of this case, Madam Chair. And again, I reiterate what I've been saying here. Ang atin pong ginagawa ay hindi po para maghusga ng innocence or guilt ng mga akusado sa isang kaso. Subalit, nais po rin nating bigyan diin na napakaraming desisyon ng Korte Suprema, simula pa lang nung Arnold versus Nazareno, 1950, na binigyan diin ng Korte Suprema ang kapangyarihan ng Senado na mag-imbita at magpatawag ng mga saksi, resource persons, para linawin ang paggawa ng batas. At kaya po tayo merong pagdinig ngayon. Subalit, nais ko pong hilingin sa lahat na during these proceedings, we show utmost respect and consideration to all persons here present, whether accuser or accused. Ang Senado po should remain as a bastion of dignity. Hindi po tayo narito para magtapon ng kung ano-anong dumi sa bawat isa, kung hindi para ipakita na ang paggawa ng batas ay ating pinapahalagahan at pinapahalagahan din natin ang karapatan ng mga naririto. Sa hukuman, meron silang, ulitin ko, meron silang karapatan na magsalita ang abogado. Dito po ay hindi. Let me ask the committee and all my colleagues here, whether present physically or virtually, to assure all of those listening that under our rules, all resource persons will be treated with respect and afforded fair treatment. Then that this institution, as I've said, will always pride itself in upholding the principles of fairness and transparency. However, if there are legal matters against you, it must be addressed in the proper judicial forum, not here. In summary, while we have the authority to compel testimony in aid of legislation, any allegations or charges will have to be resolved in the court of law. And I'm now referring to the Regional Trial Court of Pasig. Madam Chair, let us always be reminded that we have a constitution. We have a living constitution, and that the constitution should stand as our unwavering shield, protecting the rights of all, whether accused or accuser, in ensuring that justice is served without discrimination and with fairness and equality. Sana po sa pagdinig na ito, makagawa tayo ng nararapat na pagbabago sa batas, and I'm referring to the Human Trafficking Act, the elements of which we cannot change because we're bound, Secretary Manalo is here, by the Palermo Convention. Perhaps the penalties could be increased, but just the same, this hearing is required of us as part of the complexities of governance that would require us to listen to various voices, even those embroiled in legal challenges and scrutiny. Again, Madam Chair, it is crucial that we uphold the integrity of our legislative process by respecting all resource persons present and upholding due process and fairness. Our commitment must be to engage in a meaningful dialogue while adhering to the principles of justice and respect for individual rights. Our role is to seek the truth. To seek the truth. Mapagandan ho natin yung batas, marami nakikinig ngayon, and not to pass judgment. Madam Chair, thank you for giving me the privilege to have an opening statement, and again, let that serve as a continuing manifestation as to the role of this committee in the coming minutes and in the coming hours as we proceed. I now yield the floor. Maraming salamat po at magandang umaga sa inyo lahat.
Maraming salamat din po, Majority Leader. At dagdag dun sa areas of legislation na tinukoy ng Majority Leader, inuulit ko lang yung bahagi ng opening statement ko rin kanina tungkol sa ating mga batas kaugnay ng pag-misuse ng usapin ng religious freedom, yung mga rape laws natin, kung nasasaklaw na nito yung mga usapin ng consent, sexual agency at religious freedom, at yung mga labor laws din natin, kung saklaw yung mga karapatan at kagalingan ng mga tinatawag na religious volunteers. So muli, salamat po sa Majority Leader. And at this point, lastly, bago natin pakinggan yung ating mga victim survivors, may request po sa ating good Foreign Affairs Secretary Manalo dahil kinakailangan nilang umalis ng mas maaga na makapagbigay ng ilang mga salita sa atin. Secretary Manalo, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Maraming salamat, Honorable Chairperson Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Alright, balikan natin maya-maya ng konti yung Senate hearing na naririnig at napapanood po natin sa DWIZ nationwide, and of course sa Aliw Channel 23, and of course sa DWIZ News TV. And nako, ito muna, dun sa mga naghahanap ng natural at walang halong chemical na supplement, food supplement aba, subukan mo ng MX3 capsules. Siguradong safe itong inumin dahil dumaan yan sa US clinical trial at Nutrasource analysis ng Canada. Proven ang MX3 capsules na merong alpha, beta at gamma nutrients, antioxidants at anti-inflammatory properties. Kaya ano pang inaantay mo? Inaantay nyo, bumili na at sumugod na sa mga leading drugstores nationwide o kaya bumisita na sa kanilang website na mx3ph.com o tumawag sa telepono bilang 0918-888-8693. Ronda Pilipinas! Oras po natin sa buong Pilipinas, 33 minuto, makaraan ng alas 10 ng morning oras. Hatid sa inyo ng
Whirlpool Home Appliances that make everyday living so much easier. From washers, dryers, refrigerators, microwave ovens, cooking products, to air cons, air purifiers, and dishwashers. Whirlpool, sensing what matters today, making your world a little easier. Whirlpool.
Ronda Pilipinas!
Pananakit ng ulo at katawan dahil sa sobrang trabaho at stress sa buhay. Mag-Herbalaya break ka muna. Imasahe ang ulo at katawan gamit ang Herbalaya Liniment Oil.
Sa sakit ng ulo at katawan, dito na tayo sa siguradong ligtas.
Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Amoy na kaaya-aya, sa bawat pahit ay ginhawa.
Fujidenzo Home and Commercial Appliances. Upgrade your usual appliances to Fujidenzo HD Inverter Appliances. Upgrade your home. Upgrade your business with Fujidenzo. Quality above all.
Napakahalaga ng Republic Act 9999 o ang free legal assistance para sa mga walang abogado. Kahit na sinong lawyer ay pwede mong kunin ng libre dahil pwede nilang ikalta sa tax nila ang charge nila sa kaso mo. Kasi nga, isa lang sa inyo ang dapat bigyan ng PAW ng abogado na kalaban mo sa kaso. Sa free legal assistance law o ang lapid law, may abogado ka na agad. Lingkod, lapid. Para sa masang Pilipino. Lingkod, lapid. Lito Lapid.
Technogas Technique transforms your kitchen with safe and efficient appliances. With over 70 years of expertise, Technogas Technique embodies Italian kitchen excellence. Simplify your cooking with Technogas Technique, your cooking partner. That's the Technogas Technique.
Kung nalalapit na ang kasal ninyo, dapat ipaalam nyo na ito sa mga imbitado. At kung wala ka pang wedding invitation, narito ang simpleng preparation. Step 1. Kausapin ang iyong partner at pumili ng theme and style na sasalamin sa vibe ng inyong wedding. Pwede itong classic, vintage, moderno o anumang style na mapagkakasunduan nyo. Step 2. Pumili ng color scheme na tutugma sa tema ng inyong kasal at sa mga dekorasyon na gagamitin. Siguraduhing madaling mababasa ang mga salitang nakalagay at ito ay visually appealing. Huwag ring kalimutang gumamit ng quality materials para maging presentable ang invitation. Step 3. Siguraduhing mailagay ang lahat ng mga pangunahing detalye. Ilan sa mga ito ay ang pangalan ng ikakasal, petsa, oras at lugar kung saan gaganapin ang kasal. Maaari mo ring idagdag ang RSVP instructions at dress code ng mga imbitado. Step 4. Gumamit ng mga kaaya-ayang disenyo para sa imbitasyon. Pwede kang gumamit ng online tools, softwares, or mag-hire ng designer kung may extra budget ka pa. Step 5. I-secure ang mga imbitasyon at ipadala ito sa mga guest ng at least isang buwan bago ang inyong kasal. Hindi naman kailangan ng magarbo. Pwede kang mag-send ng invitation online o kausapin nyo mismo yung tao. Gets mo ba? Sige nga, do it yourself.
Laro sa Bingo Plus app para tuloy-tuloy ang saya. Kasi isang piso lang, makakalaro ka na sa Bingo Plus.
Malay mo, mapanulunan mo pa ang jackpot prize sa first online live streaming bingo sa Pinas. Panalo sa bingo,
Plus na saya!
Download Bingo Plus app now at Google Play or Apple App Store.
Dennis Antenor Jr. Ronda Pilipinas. Dire-diretso mga balita at impormasyon. Babalikan natin maya-maya ng konti yung Senate hearing at may nangyayaring briefing. Si President BBM. Pero bago natin balikan yan, ito muna Nako, lahat ito inaasikaso ni Mr. President. Mr. President, baka sumakit ang ulo ninyo pati katawan ninyo isa lang hong solusyon diyan, mag-Herbalaya liniment oil na kayo, Mr. President. Dahil sa Herbalaya liniment oil, siguradong ginhawa agad ang mararamdaman mo, Mr. President. Ayan, kinilala yan ng Asia Pacific Awards Council Q Asia National Product Quality Excellence Award at Elite Business Award na siyang patunay na dekalidad ang Herbalaya. Huwag tiisin ang sakit, Mr. President. Hindi nahuuso yan. Sa Herbalaya liniment oil, amoy na kaaya-aya, sa bawat pahid ay ginhawa. Ronda Pilipinas. Okay ba tayo? Pwede ba natin pasukin yung briefing ni Mr. President kung nagbibigay siya ng kanyang mga instructions regarding po dito sa bagyong Christine? Okay. Sino ba nandun ngayon? Sinong reporter na nandun? Andyan ba ngayon? Sige, pasok na natin. Nakita ko na si Secretary. Go!
Kasamang communication na dinadala.
Yes, sir.
We put up some kind of satellite system. Dati truck pa yan yung malaking dish.
That's right.
Maliliit na lang.
Maliliit na lang yun, sir.
Yun ang but it will again depend on the accessibility. So maybe on the first airlifts, we can include kahit yung basic lang na communication system.
Yes, sir.
Kasi pagkaalam ko, ang mga cell site, mabilis bumalik. because they have their own power. They have their own power supply, and they're able to do that. So, but nonetheless, we still have to put in, especially for government offices, for the local relief response, para masabi sa atin what we need. And even if, when they send our people in, they have to report back to us and tell us what's happening. Yes, sir.
Sir, with regard to the water filtration machine of MMDA, this is the 6,000 liter per day machine. Nag-procure na rin tayo, sir, ng 34 similar machines, so we can also deploy.
Nandito na, nasa atin na?
Yes, sir. So, Mr. President, we'll just coordinate with...
Very useful yun. That turns out to have been a very useful piece of equipment. Kasi nag-ano. All right. Okay, what else have we missed? Yes,
Mr. President, in terms of the airlift capability, we already have alerted most of our aircraft. But yesterday we also coordinated with our U.S. counterparts, and they are ready to send in their aircraft using our EDCA sites.
Yes.
And then if other countries are coming in, we will also establish our multinational coordinating centers.
Yes, there was mention of the international assistance. How do we? I'm sure maraming mag-offer, but we have to coordinate it also. What were you saying that we are in communication with other international agencies?
Actually, sir, the Secretary of National Defense has already made some kind of guidance to Office of Civil Defense in that regard.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We have to establish first the protocols before the actual deployment of military assets, sir. With Singapore, I already talked to Ambassador Xi. And then we are reaching out to Brunei, Indonesia, and Malaysia as the closest neighbors, in addition to the partner nations.
Well, this is where we make full use of the EDCA sites, especially for the activities ng AFP, pag-airlift. All right. Okay.
Mr. President.
Yes, Secretary.
Maybe I'd just like also to announce, we actually just got recently verified for 3 international medical teams, level 1. So this is a 30-man team, complete with wash, facilities for outpatient care. I plan to deploy it, one in Bicol, the other one in Northern and Central Luzon, para ready to deploy healthcare with the whole team. Ano yung first country po tayong na recognize ng WHO with 3 teams in one verification. 5 taon na po nating tinatrabaho to. And then the first team actually already was deployed in Turkey during the earthquake a few years ago. So it's a international verification. Gamitin ko na for our national deployment.
Oh, very good. Okay, that's what we need. All right. Okay, once again, what have we forgotten? Ano pa? Ano pang?
Okay, yan po si Presidente, ang kanyang briefing dyan po sa may NDR, RMC, lahat ng mga secretaries nandun. Si Secretary Gibo Chodoro, si DOH nandoon din, ang DILG nandoon, sino pa ba yung mga nakita ko doon? Lahat ng mga secretaries kumpleto. Ang DSWD, si Secretary Gatchalian nandun din. Okay, balikan po natin ang Senado kung saan may nangyaring Senate hearing ngayon. Go!
The assigned worker returned to the worker's house. When we were alone, I asked if I could just sleep on the sofa as it was a suite room. Instead, he insisted that I would sleep beside him and even said in Bisaya, compatible gyud taging kay parehas man og color ang atong suot. Translated, we are compatible because our outfits were of the same colors. I was wearing red pajamas with white dots while he was dressed in a red t-shirt and white pants coincidentally. His words made me feel uneasy and quite nervous, and I saw a different personality in him. But I was quick to dismiss that unusual feeling. And because I had previously witnessed Ingrid Canada or ICC, Teresita Dandan, TTD, and Felina Salinas slept in his room alternately, it led me to believe that it was just normal and harmless. Moreover, we had been conditioned to suppress any negative thoughts about him. We were warned that any suspicion on him would reflect our own personality, using the words found in 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 15, I quote, "To the pure, all things are pure, but to those who are corrupted and do not believe, nothing is pure. In fact, both their minds and consciences are corrupted," unquote. And in those days, absolute obedience was a must. We needed to have an unquestioned loyalty and reverence toward him. Sleeping beside a man I believed to be chosen by God was for me then a great privilege, an opportunity for a sinner like me. But what followed shattered my sense of faith and trust. Without a word, after turning off the light, he embraced me, undressed me, and violated me with his lustful act, and left me in shock and speechless. He then said, "This is the fulfillment of God's revelation." He explained that God had revealed to him that I was to partake in God's life through him by surrendering my body, soul, and spirit. He also mentioned that other girls would go through him in a similar manner. His words were strange, but I was too shocked to respond. The following day after that Sunday worship service, Apollo C. Kibuloy left for Manila, while I was left to carry on with my duties, including organizing carolers for our annual fundraising. Confusion consumed me. I felt betrayed by my faith, by him, and even perhaps by myself. I began questioning whether what had happened was indeed God's will or simply a gross abuse of power. When I returned to Manila, I was once again instructed to sleep in his room. Fear gripped me, but defying the anointing of God was unthinkable. We had been taught that such disobedience would invite a curse. The next morning, he asked if I understood God's revelation. I remained silent, unable to process what had happened. He then referenced me to Philippians chapter 2, verses 6 to 12, explaining that just as Jesus humbled himself and obeyed God, even to the point of death, so he too must obey God's will, taking in carnal things. He claimed this was necessary for him to understand the human experience and to fully empathize with others. He even told me that he had also been reluctant to accept God's revelation, but as God's chosen one, he had no choice but to act on it. I was more confused with his explanation, but I could not complain. I wanted to go out from the ministry, but I lacked courage. I did not know where to ask help. I had cut all the bridges behind my life, and I could hardly go back because it would mean starting all over again. My family was poor, and I had no connections. My option was to stay because I was still bothered with what if it was indeed God's will? December of the same year was an escape for me. Caroling as one of our sources of funds, and which had been participated in by every member of the ministry all over the country, became my excuse of staying away from the worker's house in Manila where he stayed. In January 1994, I was in his room with Ingrid Canada, the international coordinator of the church, Tessie Dandan, the national administrator for the church in the Philippines, and Felina Salinas, his personal assistant. During that...
Miss Teresita, before you continue po, yung nabanggit nyo ng 2 beses, Ingrid Canada, nandito po ba siya sa harapan ninyo?
Yes, patabi po siya ni Mr. Kibuloy.
Sila po, yung nagtaas ng kamay. All right, salamat po. Please proceed, Miss Teresita.
During that meeting, he informed the girls that I would be included in the inner circle. Right there and then, I realized that these women had likely endured similar experiences. Without any words, we shared a mutual understanding. None of us dared speak about what had happened to us. In February 1994, I was sent to Hong Kong, still carrying all the confusions and emotional turmoil. Despite this, I continued to pretend that everything was fine. When one of our musicians, JC Pangilinan, was scheduled to return to the Philippines, I seized the opportunity to send a personal letter to ACQ. In that letter, I poured out my feelings, openly expressing my emotional distress. I was honest about how deeply shocked I was to learn of his life beyond the pulpit. The man I had revered as a holy figure was in reality an ordinary mortal, one who had exploited my genuine commitment and dedication to God. My faith wavered, and everything I had once believed was shattered. I prepared myself for a harsh response, expecting a violent reaction from him. To my surprise, there was none. Instead, I was sent back here. Upon my return, I was even more surprised to learn that I had been promoted. I was appointed National Crusade Coordinator, National Logistics Coordinator, and Luzon Area Administrator all at once. This was a sudden and significant promotion from every previous role. By God's grace, I excelled in all my assigned tasks. Despite this, fear gripped me every time Apollo Kibuloy would come to Manila. My only relief was when one of the girls would accompany him, giving me an excuse not to sleep with him. I kept myself busy, visiting satellite churches to distract my confusion and agony. One day, ICC confronted me saying, ACQ sensed my distance. I made my work an excuse. February 15, 1998, ACQ used me again. It was always out of fear that I obeyed. A fear mixed with anxiety that he might knew how I pretended to be extremely grateful that he allowed me to be a part of his physical life, because in all honesty and God truly knew I was not. All the pent-up emotions suffocated me that on the following day, while preparing for church, I collapsed. ACQ performed mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, but later I learned he told others that it was just a way for me to seduce him, labeling me as Jezebel the temptress. I believe Apollo Carrion Kibuloy understood that I never wanted the life he was trying to impose on me. My decision to dedicate my life to God's service was driven by a sincere desire for spiritual purification from the sins I had committed before becoming a full-time worker. I had only one goal, to live a holy life and ultimately to attain heaven. As the Bible says in Colossians chapter 3, verse 5, I quote, put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature, sexual immorality, impurity, lust. But how could I achieve this with the circumstances that I was in? Disobedience and complaints were never an option. Anyone who did so was labeled as carnal, as someone who did not overcome the flesh. Everything was always twisted. One day, I said, Sir has noticed that you've been distant. I made up excuses trying to avoid the truth. I had been telling Tracy Dan that I was extremely exhausted. She presumed that I was just too focused of my responsibilities, especially in the logistics department. I was always pressured to meet my 15 million quota. Every December on caroling season, if ever the sense that there was really something wrong with my belief, I was instructed to prepare my documents for my USA visa, and I believe realization came later when I already left from his group that it was also to distance me from the workers and members here that I might be able to tell his dark secret. I never wanted to go to America because inside of me were unresolved spiritual issues, confused mind, that bothered me always, always. But my visa was approved. I didn't know that I was to lead and plan for the fundraising to be done in America, and we would employ the same strategy of our money making here in the country. In America, I witnessed the double standard life. What we prohibited in the Philippines, we did them there. We lived in luxury. We toured around. We dined in fine and expensive restaurants. We watched movies. Sky's the limit when they went shopping. I decided to stay in the apartment where the minister and his family lived. Despite the insistence of ICC to stay with them, I refused. I made a lot of excuses. Sapagkat, hindi ko po natin na kaming nasa Amerika ay masyadong nagpakasasa sa paggasta sa pera na masyadong pinaghirapan ng mga kapatiran at ng mga full-time workers. Bilang namuno po sa crusades, evangelism at logistics departments, saksi po ako kung paano nagsakripisyo ang bawat isa para lang makapagbigay sa iba't ibang pangangailangan sa simbahan. Nakita ko na kahit pambili ng bigas ng membro, kailangan sakripisyo pa para lang maibigay sa simbahan kahit gugutumin pa ang mga pamilya. Nasaksipan ko po na kahit last centavo para pamasahe, kailangang ibigay pa rin. Bahala nang maglakad papuntang simbahan ang mga mahihirap na membro. Hindi kinaya ng aking konsensya ang double standard life. Maraming workers ang napalo dahil sa panunood na ng sine, pero kami sa Amerika, halos linggo-linggo nanood ng sine, bawal sa amin ito dati. Naghirap ang maraming workers at members sa pagkaroling at pagsulisit sa bawat tao sa lahat ng dako dito sa ating bansa. May namatay, may na-aksidente, may nakulong, may mga na-rape pa na hindi na na-report. Dahil baka hindi paniwalaan at baka makapag-fasting pa dahil may kasalanan na itinago, kaya napahintulutang nangyari. Lahat may kota, di ba? Napakasakit po sa damdamin ko dahil ako po ang namuno sa mga fundraisings. After December season, ang mga members kailangang magtinda ng mga kakanin para may bigay sa mga pledges for Alay kay Kristo, building funds, love offerings, television pledges, tithes, and others. And when they could not provide for their own foods, they would just resort to fasting. Meron din pa akong quota, 10 to 15 million pesos to raise in the month of December alone. I organized the carolers nationwide to meet my quota. We recruited and trafficked our young people from Mindanao and Visayas to carol in the provinces of Luzon and in the national capital region cities. Marami pong estudyante na Nobyembre pa lang kailangan nang mag-absent sa paralan at ang iba hindi na nakabalik sa pag-aaral dahil inuna ang simbahan, inuna ang pagkaroling, inuna ang paghanap ng pera. But nobody questioned where our income was spent. Sa mga buwan ng Pebrero hanggang Oktubre, ang ibang workers na nasa logistics department kailangan mag-solicit na naman throughout the country using the permits of the different associations. Pag-asa ng Buhay, Children's Way Foundation, Tulong sa May Kapansanan, Handog ng Pagmamahal, Pagdamay sa Dukha, Shivers for Christ. The supposed income na dapat ibigay sa mga beneficiaries sa mga nasabing associations, hindi naman talaga truthfully and honestly na ibigay. Only a little portion of the income was shared to the beneficiaries. Ang ibang workers naman, walang hinto sa pagtinda rin ng mga kakanin na may quota of 500 to 1,000 pesos a day, Monday to Saturday. Ito ang buhay ng mga workers na nasa logistics department. In America, they began to notice my indifference. ICC called my attention, stating there were reports from my assistant in the logistics department in Manila that I had secretly sent money to my family. Then, she informed me that ministers wrote letters to ACQ and reported that I tempted and fornicated with them during my visits to their satellite churches. I was so shocked to learn of the sudden accusations. I also wrote a letter and enumerated the real circumstances of my life with all the ministers I came in contact with in relation to our aggressive fundraising, being the National Logistics Coordinator. However, that was not enough. I was then forced to write a long letter of confession, making it appear that I was a sinner who committed all kinds of sins, including those I had committed before joining the ministry. I complied, believing that through this written confession, I would be totally forgiven from my old sins and burdens and be completely sanctified. In detail, I wrote everything I thought was considered sin I had committed from childhood until the present. I also implicated ACQ in my sins. It had the same tenor of the letter I wrote in Hong Kong in 1994. And this time, he was furious. Then ICC instructed me to revise my letter. I was told not to implicate ACQ and to state that I was the sole sinner and I was filthy. Upon realizing how angry ACQ was, I revised my letter out of fear and stated that I had sinned because I truly was filthy. In detail, I imagined sins.
Ms. Teresita, yung paulit-ulit yung binabanggit na ICC, sino po yun?
Ingrid Chavez, Canada.
Sila pa rin po. All right. Please proceed.
In detail, I imagined sins and I made it appear that I had committed them all. That was how stupid I was to obey and exaggerate my story. Just to appease the anger of our leader, Apollo C. Kibuloy, not knowing it would become my death sentence later. My exaggerated story was then distributed to all his leaders and ministers, and they believed I was filthy, I was pervert, and I was wicked, painting me as the sole guilty party, while ACQ remained innocent.
Balikan ho natin mamaya ng kaunti ang nangyayaring Senate hearing dyan mismo sa Senado at babalikan din natin si Celia Ortega Bueno regarding do sa mga updates sa mga nangyayari dyan sa Senado. Pero ito sa mga kalalakihan dyan, alam nyo ba na ang karaniwang sakit nyo o natin ay prostate cancer? Ang prostate ay bahagi ng ating katawan na posibleng lumaki pagtugtong na edad na 45 pataas at kalimitang nauuwi po yan sa komplikasyon. Ilan yan sa sintomas o ilan sa mga sintomas nito ang hirap sa pag-ihi, pananakit ng pelvic area at bone pain. Kaya naman, para maiwasan po yan, simulan po ang alagaan yan sa pag-inom ng Prostamin. Ang Prostamin ay isang natural dietary supplement para sa prostate health na siguradong makakatulong sa pagbawas sa paglaki ng prostate. Iba talaga ang alagang Prostamin. Ronda Pilipinas. Time check muna tayo. Oras muna natin sa buong Pilipinas. Meron tayong 4 na minuto makaraan ng alas 11 ng umaga. At yan po ang kabuuan ng mga balita at impormasyon sa Ronda Pilipinas. Happy birthday muna kay Miss Lovely Amatosa. Yan, ng Aleo Broadcasting Corporation. Natabayanan po ang susunod na programang Yes, Yes, Yo to Passion with Attorney Forty Passion and Miss Juvie de Guzman. Pero babalikan po natin maya-maya ng konti. Yun pong nangyayaring hearing dyan po sa Senado. And of course, babalikan din natin mamaya yung briefing po ni PBBM dyan po sa may NDRRMC. Maraming salamat Pilipinas. Ako ang iyong naging tagapagbalita. Ako si Dennis Antenor Jr. Nagbabalita ng tama, naglilingkod ng tama.
Ang mga malalaking mga balita, ang mga matitinding mga pinag-uusapan, ang mga maiinit at pinagtatalunang mga issue. Lahat hagip, lahat malalaman. Hindi lang sa buong Metro at Mega Manila. Kasama na ang buong Pilipinas. Hahagupit na ang mga malalaking issue sa Ronda